Okay, so when your kids were babies, it wasn't a big deal. But now that they're ready to start their education, you might want to move for a better school. Also, you really want that house, but there's a bidding war. Is it a good idea to forego the inspection and the effort to get the deal? And what about those property taxes? Yes, I said it, property taxes, ouch. Joining us with the state of real estate in the greater Houston area and things to keep in mind if you're buying, selling, or staying put is Amy Bernstein with Bernstein Realty. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning. I love that entry. I like it.
Well,
awesome.
there you go. It's all about what's happening in the state of real estate.
I love it.
All right, I have so many friends and people who, when they saw how real estate was going really well, especially during that COVID time, they're like, I'm getting my real estate license.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but
it's just so easy.
Yeah, it's so easy. And none of them are doing it right now. You know why? It's not that easy.
Yes.
You are celebrating 40 years in the business. You've seen a lot, even to the point where you were at the time before the internet where you were carrying around a book of pictures of homes, right?
Do you know they used to put out books, and by the time you got the books, half the properties were gone.
Yeah.
But you couldn't click on anything and see anything inside the home.
Yeah.
So you would just see this little blurry black and white photo, look like a newspaper print.
Yeah, so you had to see the houses in person.
I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, you also have been through, record sales and record foreclosures. You've kind of, like I said, seen it all.
Yes.
All right, preparation. Let's start with, when people start to enter the home market, even people who bought several homes still find it confusing and need to have a realtor to kind of walk them through certain things. Preparing to buy a home, pre-qualified, how important is that?
It's unbelievably important because number one, when you think you know what you can afford, a lot of times you don't really know what a bank says you can afford, and vice versa. Sometimes a bank will say you can borrow more than you want to pay.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get with the bank, but the most important thing is when you present your offer to the seller, it's nice for the seller to know that you've gone through that step of getting pre-qualified.
Yeah.
So they know they have a ready, willing, and able buyer to buy the home.
So somebody's not pumping the brakes in the middle of the deal going, oh, wait, we have to get qualified.
It adds total teeth to your offer.
Yeah. All right. Today, we can go online to narrow down what neighborhood we want, desired schools, proximity to work, lot sizes, all that stuff. All right. Finding a house. Certain things can outweigh imperfections. A lot of us are moved by, oh, but that's not this, that's not that. In certain neighborhoods, there are homes that are going to cost you, but they're not to the level you might think you want, right? But there's a reason for that, schools being one of them.
Right. So when people move to Houston, especially from out of town, school is always the number one. Commute is always the number two. And it's easy for people that locally live here because they know the areas and they're familiar with the areas and they know people that live in the areas. But there's nothing like really getting into that area, driving it yourself, driving it to your commute time, driving it on your return commute time, just knowing the area before you take that plunge.
Yeah, because I remember when I first moved here, I went, well, I can get a whole lot more house if I move out to so-and-so. And the realtor said, drive it.
Yes.
And I would have been late to work every morning.
Yes, and drive it at the hours that you
would go to work.
Would be going to work.
That was in rush hour traffic, yeah. But yeah, going back to the certain homes, overlook imperfections when you're getting the things that are really important to you, like your kids' education.
So I think it's important to make a wish list always, because it's like anything. When you start out looking for a home, most buyers want everything on that wish list. And then you start looking and you start looking, and I always say the more you look, the more you know what you want and what you don't want. Right. And knowledge is really power. So the more you look, the more you go, well, that is nice to have, but that's at the bottom of my wish list. And at the end of the day, if you get the top few things on your wish list or the top several things on your wish list, everything else can be added, but the things that can't be added obviously are the static things like location and schools and commute time, we're talking about.
Safety is a concern for a lot of people too. You can pull crime reports today. You can see things,
right? You can.
What new developments might be planned around you? You may have a park right behind you, but is there like a gas station going in right behind you, or a nightclub going in behind you at some point?
That's a great point. So a lot of times you have to be mindful of any vacant land that's behind you. The other day I was showing in a community and there was this big vacated warehouse behind. And the salesperson on the other side said, oh, that's going to be patio homes. Well, you know what? Until you see those patio homes going up, it could be anything. It could be an office building with the parking garage and all the lights on at night there. You don't really know. So that is always a scary thing is to buy.
And also, if you just don't want like somebody with a window looking straight down into your backyard, sometimes you just can't avoid that in a lot of neighborhoods.
Yes.
But if they're looking straight, if you right now are enjoying the privacy of a backyard with no one looking down into it, that could happen as well.
That does.
All right, all that glitters glitter is not gold. When people have their houses on the market, oftentimes that's the prettiest it's going to look.
Yeah, that's the best.
Right, yeah. And it's on the outside. We're moved by the, oh, look at that marble sink. Oh, this is really beautiful. But you got to look at what's behind the walls. What is the infrastructure of the house? What's on the roof? Check all those things as well. Inspections.
I'll never forget, I went to a wedding a couple weeks ago, and somebody walked up to the bride and said, "Don't you feel good? Probably today's the best you're going to ever look." And I thought, oh my God, that's kind of like a house getting ready to go on the market. It's going to look the best it's ever going to look.
It's trying to get married. The house is trying to get married.
But it's true. I mean, you want to get on some sort of maintenance plan for your home as well, where you know certain things happen on a regular basis. But before you put it on the market, you should look at little things like, are there separations between the crown molding and the ceiling where you could caulk and make that look nice? Is there a room that is bold red where maybe some buyers don't really see the forest through the trees, and you want to paint it white so that people have vision and can understand it?
So inspections, I talked about it earlier. Sometimes people will say, look, chop, we're in a bidding war. We don't have time for you to get those inspections. There are times when people will say, yeah, forego the inspection. We're good with that, because they may be completely remodeling the house or tearing it down for all you know, right? But that can cost you a lot of money on the back end if you skip inspections.
It really can. I'm so glad you brought that up. The reality is, when there's a bidding war, some things you have to compromise on, right? So you may want to shorten your option period, and that is your time to do your inspections. But I would not do away with an option period, and I would not do away with inspections, because that really can cost you money, like you're saying in the end. You really need to understand the home. So if you're going to do something to make your offer better, shorten the option period, raise the option fee, the cost of that option period, to show the seller that you're sincere. Look, I'm putting all this money up. I don't expect anything to go wrong, but I do need to verify it for myself.
If you figure out that you need a whole new roof, you can also use that in your negotiations, right, in terms of the price of the house?
Yes, the option period is that time to understand what you didn't know and renegotiate for what you didn't know. But to waive it totally is a big risk for a buyer. You could, to make your offer better, raise your financing, lose your financing contingency, raise the amount of your option period, lower the time frame of the option, but to lose it all together and not do inspections is a huge risk.
Yeah, all right. Property taxes. People are in the thick of it right now. The thick of it right now. A lot of people are protesting their property taxes. Some people say, I just don't know what to do. I don't want to deal with it. But they're leaving money on the table oftentimes.
Yes. So May 15th to May 21st, which tomorrow, May 21st, I know our phones will be ringing off the wall today, because that is the time to protest your property taxes, or to file a protest, to not lose your right to protest. And it is very, very important to protest those property taxes. The county that you live in feels like they know what the assessed value of your home should be, but they haven't been in it. They don't know the insides of it, and sometimes they use comparables that aren't really comparable to yours. So it is important that a homeowner be prudent and stay on top of their property taxes so that they can keep the value down, to be able to keep your taxes down. And you do have the right every year as a homeowner to protest those property taxes. Just please make sure that you don't miss the deadline, and that deadline ranges anywhere from May 15th to May 21st, or 30 days after you get the notice.
And you mentioned those comparables. There are neighborhoods like, I'll use Memorial for example. You have a lot of ranch homes that were built in the late 50s, early 60s, and then you have a lot of homes that were built like 15 minutes ago.
Yes.
So if you're trying to mix all that, one is not like the other.
One is not like the other, and taking pictures of your home so that if you go down to file, you can do your protest online today, but if you choose to go down and sit face to face with that person at the county, bring them photos, show them pictures of things that may need repair.
Okay, a few seconds left. Settle up when your tax bills come. If you've sold a house and you owe taxes,
So important. So at closing, the title company will prorate your taxes on the last known tax bill, not the actual tax bill. So when you close, you will be prorated based on last year's property taxes, but when the bills come out, or if you're a seller, you can go online and see what the bills were sent to the buyer, and if you paid too much, you have the right to notify the other party and ask for the refund. So that is an estimate when you close, and everybody signs something at closing saying, we agree to settle up, but you have to remember to settle up and look after yourself.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's why it's good to have a realtor. All right,
always have a realtor.
For more information on Bernstein Realty and the services offered in real estate, log on to greatdayhouston.com and we will connect you.